Hello and welcome to another webinar from your friends here at Avid. My name is Nathan Hill. I oversee all things training related here at Avid, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us today to talk about a really interesting topic. At least I think it's interesting. Hopefully you do too, which is kind of a topic about burnout and what's happening in our space at the moment, where the requirements of fundraising today have become so high that it's almost unsustainable. So that's what we're going to be exploring today, as well as some things that you can start to do about it, ways that we can start to move forward, as well as kind of rethinking, what does effective fundraising look like in 2025, because of some of the historical models of how we typically think about fundraising and marketing and communications. They're broken analogies. And so we're going to explore a new way of thinking about it that I think will illuminate some new approaches, strategies, and tactics in order to continue to grow and scale our fundraising efforts. Before we dive into any of that, I would love for you to jump into the comments, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or another channel, and let me know a couple things. Who are you? What organization are you from? And where in the world are you tuning in from today? So I'll keep my eye on the chat, but feel free to jump in the comments and let me know, who are you? What organization are you from? And where in the world are you tuning in from today? As you start to drop those thoughts and comments into the chat, I'll go ahead and turn my screen share on. I'll show you kind of where we're going today. Avid, if you're not familiar, if this is your first time joining us for an event like this, Avid is the first fundraising agency in the cloud. Now, that means a variety of different things, but at the core of what we do here at Avid, we help bring all of your systems together. Most nonprofits and fundraisers find that all of their data is scattered across a bunch of systems and tools that never talk to each other. And even when they do, they don't talk to each other very well. So step one, we want to bring all that data together, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to make better strategic decisions to move forward and scale and grow your revenue, is if all your tools talk to each other and you have a full 360-degree view of what's happening in your program. Avid's also going to help you unlock opportunities that are in your data, help spot all those key areas and segments and insights of places where maybe you have opportunity for growth, or even spot problems as they start to creep in to make sure that you can solve them before they get out of hand. And ultimately, our goal is to help you turn data into action. So we're not just a reporting tool. We're also going to sit on top of your data to recommend what should you do about these issues and problems and opportunities, help you actually run the plays, run the campaigns to actually see meaningful results. So we'll share more about that as we go today. But I see we've got a handful of folks jumping into the LinkedIn comments here. So I'll give some shout outs. We've got Levi Grant joining us. We've got Glenn Peck from down in Austin, Texas. We've got Suzanne Carl joining us from Cleveland, Ohio. Lots of folks joining. Drew, COO at Operation Blessing in Virginia Beach. Welcome Grace from Lung Cancer Foundation in Denver, so not too far from myself. I'm up here in Fort Collins, Colorado, so just up the road from you. We've got Lisa Sword, writing supervisor at Andrew Womack Ministries, also in Colorado. Colorado represent today. Okay. And Kristen, publications graphic designer from Andrew Womack as well. And if you're just jumping in, you're just joining, again, feel free to drop in the comments, who are you, what organization are you from, and where in the world are you tuning in from today? I'll keep giving some shout outs as I see people dropping in, just like Jonathan, as well as Lance Melton. Welcome. Excited that you're here. My name is Nathan Hill. I am the Vice President of Training at Avid. Just a bit of my background, so you get to know me a little bit as I'm getting to know you. I spent about the past decade working at an agency that's helping nonprofits grow fundraising, and got to sit in a really unique seat of watching learnings from A/B testing coming in. That's really learnings that are decoding what works to grow giving and generosity. And about 3 months ago, I came over and joined the Avid team as we're building out this platform to help fundraisers like yourself scale and grow your ability to grow your program. So bringing in all that kind of learnings from the creative side, now marrying that up with the data side to help you turn data into action. So I'm thrilled to be with you today. I'm thrilled that you're joining me for this conversation, because I expect and I hope that it will be thought-provoking for you as you envision a future where we're using tools and technology to help us scale and grow to be more effective and efficient. And that's ultimately where we're going today. The title of today's conversation is that modern fundraising is unsustainable. I have given a lot of different, I had a lot of different speaking opportunities over the past few months, whether it's virtual like this or it's in person. I was just at the Build Good Summit last week, and incredible group of people, incredible group of fundraisers. We were talking about recurring giving and things to do to increase and improve recurring giving strategies. And every time I bring this kind of topic up, whether we're diving deep into it or it's just like sprinkling in a thought here and there, I just see these kind of aggressive nods. It's like modern fundraising is hard to keep up with. We don't have the resources, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the time to keep up with all the nuance and all the details and all the creative and the copy and the segmentation, all the things that go into running effective campaigns. It takes all of our time and pulls us away from what's often the most important things, which is high-level strategy. Where are we going? Looking at the future of the organization. How do we build strong, meaningful relationships with donors? We spend all of our days stuck in copywriting mode and pulling lists and in Excel files. That's not the best use of our time as fundraisers. So we're going to unpack that today as we go. I see a few more folks jumping in. I see Chantel, we got to meet at the Build Good Summit last week. We've got Melody as well, who was also at Build Good Summit. It's really fun to see familiar faces and friends jumping on today. We've got Philip Godden, we've got Elaine Hips, Kiana Ramos. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're all here. Let's dive in. So this is probably familiar to you. This is not a surprising or shocking view of how marketing or communications or fundraising works. This is a very traditional model of thinking about how someone engages with your organization or with any type of brand, really, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. This is the marketing funnel. I won't over-explain it for you, but you've got these three kind of key steps. We're trying to reach new people, generate awareness. That's the top of the funnel. We're then trying to move them towards this like consideration stage where they're considering, should I start to take a deeper engagement, a deeper action with this organization or with this brand, either making a donation or volunteering or coming to an event or making a purchase of some sort, and then ultimately moving them to action where they actually say yes to a particular call to action. So this is the marketing funnel. Again, a very traditional view, a helpful way of seeing and thinking about how does someone interact with us. It is helpful to think through what are we doing to go generate awareness about our causes and our mission? What are we doing to move people into that second stage where they're actually considering taking some next steps? They're learning a lot more. They're starting to lean in. What are the things and kind of the hooks we have out in the water to get people to say yes and actually make a decision? It's a helpful analogy, but it's also a broken analogy. Every analogy at some point breaks down. In 2025, I think the marketing funnel has completely broken down because this is not the primary way that I see that people actually engage in an organization with an organization. It's a helpful model to think about these key stages, but if we're trying to actually go map, what does it look like when a donor engages with us? What do their interactions look like? What does the pathway look like? It's not this clear sort of linear funnel where people are just naturally falling in and moving towards a decision. So there's a lot of other thinking out there today about how do we improve upon the funnel? What are the improvements upon the funnel to help us think better about these sorts of things? There's a company called Mech Labs that many years ago introduced this idea of what if you flip the funnel on its head? Because there's no gravity in the natural environment that's like pulling people down through your funnel. It's actually a lot of work. So we want to flip it on its head, and they suggested people are actually like climbing up the funnel. I spent a lot of time in my previous work teaching about this type of a mentality where we took this concept of the upside down funnel and said, hey, when you flip a funnel on its head, it actually looks more like a mountain. And the donor journey is a lot more like scaling a mountain than it is like falling down a funnel, where you've got all these different decision points where you're trying to get to the top. And at the top is basically the decision point of giving. But you have all these different decisions to make along the way. And we, as the fundraiser, as the marketer, as the communicator, it's our job to help that donor or prospective donor choose to say yes at every single step, whether that's an email campaign of choosing to say yes to opening and then reading and then clicking and then going to the page and going through all the motions, or it's a direct mail campaign of trying to make sure that they don't just take that thing we spent so much time and energy and money on putting it in their mailbox. We don't want them to just toss it. We want them to actually open it. How do we make sure that more people do that? Read it, engage with it, put a check in the mail, scan the QR code, or put the URL in, go to the page and actually make a gift. This is a helpful analogy to think about. How do we optimize our way to more people saying yes through a particular channel or through a particular funnel, if you will? But again, every single one of these analogies breaks down at some point. In fact, as I tried to kind of extrapolate on this analogy, it's like, well, you actually have a lot of different segments and audiences of people that are climbing maybe the same mountain, and they have different paths that they're taking there. They have different decision points. So suddenly you've got a mountain with like a trail map that's got like 8 different trails that are getting to the top, and it's just convoluted. But then also there's more decisions to make than just giving. There's other ways to engage. So you've got this whole mountain range that have all these different people and all these different paths with all these different decisions. And then that's overwhelming. And what do you do with that? That analogy breaks down. So it's helpful. But if we're, again, trying to map what does the actual journey of a donor look like, it's a little bit more complicated than just scaling one singular mountain on one singular path. I mentioned the Build Good Summit, which I was at last week and had the pleasure of meeting several of you who are on today watching this webinar. So thank you for being here. Build Good has this idea and this concept called the fundraising flywheel. So it's not a funnel. It's not an upside down funnel. It's a circle and it's a cycle. And it's a way of thinking about the donor and engaging with them in this kind of cyclical nature where they've given at some point. We want to go celebrate them and encourage them because it's a really good thing. We want to then go report back to the donor on the impact that they're making to make sure that they stay connected to the organization. We want to listen to them and give them a voice and get their feedback and make sure they feel part of this community. We want to engage them with content and all sorts of things along the way before we circle back and make the ask. So you have all these different ways of looking at engaging with donors, from funnels to upside down funnels and mountains to this sort of cycle. But none of these, I think, do justice to what is the actual donor experience in 2025 when there's 1,000,001 channels that they interact in, whether they know it or not. There's all these different forms of marketing and communication that are vying for their attention. What does the actual engagement experience of a donor look like and feel like? So I want to introduce you to an idea that I'm actually borrowing from my friend Ben Smithy. I've seen him give a presentation a couple of times where he talks about this idea that Gen Z broke the funnel. Gen Z broke your funnel. And I would actually submit and say, I think it goes a little bit further than that. I think that the funnel, again, is just a broken analogy for where we're at today, because no one interacts with an organization or with a brand in a clean, like linear format. He talks about this kind of new funnel ideas looking a lot more like the sort of the New York like metro system. I spent a good amount of time in Chicago. I grew up in Illinois, so that's what's close to home for me. This is a map of the Chicago CTA system, particularly the L. So all the kind of the train systems in the city that run together into the center, they meet together in the loop, then you can jump on a different line and go back out to where you need to go. I think this just visually looks a lot more like how a donor interacts with us and engages with us in 2025. And quite honestly, you could probably jump back another 10 years and go back to 2015 and say, this is a more accurate picture of how donors engage with us. But it keeps getting harder and harder for us as fundraisers as time goes on to keep up with all the various channels and decision points and the places where someone jumps on a train, jumps off the train, gets onto a different channel. So what I want to do here is, instead of just, putting this map up for you and trying to break it down, I want to share a couple stories, a couple of examples, a funnel story of how someone might become a donor, and then more of this like convoluted CTA transit map version of how someone might become a donor, and get your thoughts on what do you think feels more realistic. So I've got 2 stories for you, and I want to introduce you to my friend, Sarah. She is not real. She was made by AI. I work with my buddy, Mr. ChatGPT, and we kind of put some of these stories together. We're going back and forth. We're brainstorming, all that sort of stuff. After we put these stories together, we created this person named Sarah. I said, hey, what is Sarah? Can you give me a picture of Sarah so I can actually show people who Sarah is? And here we go. We got this nice, wonderful, wonderful lady. Her name is Sarah, and we're going to follow her story of how she became a donor. Ready? Let's jump in. If you got thoughts as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat, drop them in the comments. We'd love to see kind of what you're thinking and how you're reacting to some of these ideas. Let's tell a story about a funnel. Now, as I was putting some of these slides together, I was committed to using AI tools, because we're going to talk about AI tools here in a little bit. I was committed to using AI tools to generate a lot of the creative, and so I said, "Hey, can you make me a little graphic of a funnel that I can put on a slide?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." Here's a couple options. It generated 3 different options, and every single one of these little funnel icons, everyone had a slice of an orange in it. Despite me asking it even later to not include the slice of the orange, it was like determined to make sure that there's an orange in my funnel. I don't understand why, but it must be important because our AI overlords said so. So we've got a funnel with an orange in it. And here's our funnel story from Sarah. So let's imagine that Sarah has never heard of your organization. We got a lot of different nonprofits on today. Andrew Womack Ministries. We've got CBN. We've got a lot of folks on today. Children's Hospital Foundation. Imagine that Sarah has never heard of your organization. Okay, that's her starting place. If you want to map this to like the funnel, she's not even in your funnel yet. If you want to map it to the mountain, she's still in her car driving up to the trailhead. She doesn't really know where she's going to even go hiking yet, so she's not even at the mountain. That's her starting place. Now, Sarah is on Facebook like everybody else. And by Facebook, I really mean just kind of any of the platforms. Choose your own adventure here, any of the platforms underneath like the Meta brand. But we'll say she's scrolling through Facebook. Personally, I got rid of that app years ago, but every now and again, I want to get on like Facebook Marketplace. And so I got to log in and whatever. And then I get lost scrolling in Facebook. Let's imagine that's Sarah's story here as well. She sees an ad in her feed, and it's for an ebook that's about something related to your organization. It's educational, it's helpful, it's encouraging, it's practical, something she's very interested in. And she says, "Oh, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to click on that." I don't normally click on ads in my Facebook feed, but here I am. I'm going to click through, find out a little bit more. She clicks, she reads more on the landing page. Got a couple paragraphs of copy explaining the value of this resource to her. And she's like, "Oh yeah, this is actually what I thought it was. It's even better than what I thought. I definitely want this." She fills out the form on the page, says, "Yes, send me this, first name, last name, email address, cool, send me the thing." And then she comes to what's called an instant donation page, where she's presented with an opportunity to give right away. It says, "Hey, thank you so much for requesting this book. It's on its way to your inbox. Let me ask you for just a moment of your time." And then it goes into a donation appeal. It has a donation form right there on the page where she can give. And then she's so motivated by the copy on the page that she chooses to pull out her credit card and actually fill out the form and give. Voila, we have a brand new donor. Her name is Sarah. She's in the CRM, all the stuff. We're firing off new donor welcome series, making sure she retains all that good stuff. How many of you feel like this is a pretty accurate example to how most people become a donor to your organization? That's not rhetorical. Feel free to drop it in the comments, and I'll kind of give some shout outs and some answers as I see them come in. How many of you think this feels like a very accurate model? For those that might be questioning this, like, does anyone donate like this? This is actually a really sustainable model for how we can build campaigns and donor acquisition campaigns, specifically digitally and online, to bring new donors into the fold. But the longer that I spend time in this space and talk with real people and see more metrics and data, the more I feel like, I don't think that just this one example, despite it being a sustainable way to bring in new donors, this is not an accurate picture of Sarah's whole story. Because most people don't make a decision to go give their hard-earned cash to an organization just because they saw a Facebook ad one time. There's usually a lot more to the story. There's usually a lot more touch points and interactions that happen along the way towards driving someone like Sarah to actually make a gift. It's not just this clean, a pure funnel. So what I want to do is share with you a different story that looks a lot more like this Chicago transit system map. Again, I don't know why the orange is here, but clearly it's important, so we're going to keep it. Here's another story. Here's another example. And I want to see how this sits with you. I want to see if this resonates with you. So example 2, we're going to dive a little bit deeper on Sarah today. So Sarah, like many of us, is on LinkedIn. She's a hardworking professional. She's very well networked. She's trying to go build her personal brand and all that sort of stuff. She's on LinkedIn. often dropping some ideas about how people can be more effective in their fundraising or whatever. She's on LinkedIn, she's active there. And while she's there, she's kind of scrolling through and she sees that her friend, we'll call her Emily, shared this petition from an organization. We'll say it's your organization. It's a petition around global childhood education, basically asking you to sign this petition to basically advocate for more access to education for kids around the world. And this, topic is interesting to Sarah. She is genuinely friends with Emily. She's not just a LinkedIn connection. They're genuinely friends. And so she pauses to go read it a little bit more, and she clicks through and she says, okay, yeah, I'll sign this. It's just first name, email address, bam, bam, bam. It like auto fills it anyway. All she has to do is push the button, bam. She signed this petition, felt meaningful in the moment. She goes back to LinkedIn. She keeps scrolling. She's got a post she's working on, totally forgets about it, moves on with her life. That's step one. It's just this like small little interaction that she has through something on social media, in this case, LinkedIn. Now, later, we'll say it's later that evening. Now she was doing that LinkedIn stuff on work time. Now it's the evening. She's like doom scrolling on her phone, on Instagram. And as she's doing that, she sees a video ad pop up. Now she doesn't normally stop and engage with an ad, or at least she doesn't think that she does, but this one really grabbed her attention. It was from the same organization. It was a video about a Kenyan child named Amina who now attends school thanks to the support of donors. And it's this really beautiful video and this really beautiful story that she's moved by it. In fact, she's so moved by it that she keeps just doom scrolling on Instagram the moment that it's done. I'm sure you've had that same experience where you like we're on any form of social media, you see something that like moves you, maybe if it like brings a little tear, but I'm here because I'm just, filling some time. And so you just keep scrolling. It was this powerful, meaningful moment for her, but it didn't ultimately lead to a donation, but it made an impact. And now she's moved on to something else in her feed. So that's like step two. Step three is that later that week, Sarah receives an email from you, and it's a solicitation. It's asking her to make a donation. What she didn't quite realize and doesn't know yet, but the fundraiser behind the scenes knows, this is a whole campaign that's actually running. It started with this petition to get someone in the door. Now you're retargeting with some video ads. And now over here, we just captured her email a couple days ago. So we're going to go send her this email and ask her to take a next step, because she didn't give on that after she signed the petition, but now she might have a chance to from email. And so she clicks through, she's interested, she's reading more, she's on the donation page, she gets really close, she's already all the way down to the form, but she doesn't pull out her credit card, she doesn't give yet. But it moved her a little bit closer. She was like right at that point of maybe considering giving, but just didn't quite get over the line. She engaged, but then she pulled away. Fourth, Sarah then sees a retargeting ad from you. She's on some other website. She's reading an article. She sees a retargeting ad from you, recognizes it now because she's already had these 3 different engagements with you. She clicks through on it, but she still doesn't give. Maybe moved her a little bit. It got her back to that point of consideration, but she still didn't give. And then what happens next, this actually happens the following week, is she gets a direct mail piece in the mail. Now, this is some like clever sleuthing because she didn't give you her mailing address, but you have some magical ways to go get some data and append it to records and all that sort of stuff. And so what you did is you dropped one of these, like a little postcard in the mail to her, and it has the same story that she saw in the video ad the other day. Okay, it's telling that story just briefly about Amina. It has a little like note and quote and letter from her that's on it, and she thinks this is really meaningful. I saw this story. This is really close to my heart. I signed that petition, and she keeps it on her counter for the next like 3 or 4 days. She's making dinner, gets a little food on it, but she still keeps it there because it meant something to her. She's a millennial, and so she's never going to write a check in response to this thing. Maybe she'll go online to respond to it and give, but she's not putting her, bank account information on a piece of paper and putting it in the mailbox for a stranger to just go take, hopefully, where it needs to go. She's not doing that. That's terrifying. So she's going to just sit with this direct mail piece, be really encouraged by it, but not really take any action. Here's where it finally happens. Sarah is on this long, winding path to ultimately get to the point of donating. Again, it looks more like this kind of Chicago transit system map, because step 6, She's back on LinkedIn. She's trying to get her weekly post up and ready to go. And she sees that her friend Emily has actually given to this organization that she posted about last week. Emily, this time, is actually posting about the campaign that you are running, and she's sharing why she chose to give. And now Sarah is bolstered by her trust in her friend Emily. And oh, you actually gave to the same organization too. I've been considering giving as well. And so she ultimately clicks through on the link and she chooses to give. Now, which one of these two examples feels more like real life? The funnel where she just kind of shows up out of the blue, out of nowhere, and ultimately gives a gift because she clicked through on a Facebook ad? Or example 2 here, where she's moved by all these different different sort of stops along the way, where she jumps on the train, she rides for a little bit, she jumps off, she jumps back on at a different station, she rides a little bit longer, she jumps off, she moves on, ultimately getting to her ultimate destination. But it took a lot of jumping on, jumping off, moving over, and riding the train out a few different times. To me, this feels a lot more like reality than the pure funnel. And I see Danny's jumping in. Says example 2. Suzanne says example 2. Yes, this is much more how you and I just interact with any kind of brand in 2025. But again, probably for the past 10 years or so, if not longer than that. So you go kind of compare these side by side. Which one is more like reality? It's this kind of transit map experience, and every analogy breaks down at some point. So there's value in understanding the marketing funnel and what we can learn from that. But I think it's really important for us today to understand that the people we're engaging with, whether they're someone who's going to give to you exclusively in offline channels like through the mail, or someone who's going to give to you exclusively in an online channel, or somewhere in the middle, they're interacting with all these different touch points and all these different channels and influenced by them on a daily basis. And so we have to go create campaigns and engagement points that understand that people are interacting across all these different touch points, which I don't have to tell you is really, really hard to do. It's a ton of work. It's a lot more than what it took 10, 15 years ago to be effective in fundraising. There's a heck of a lot more we have to do today. Let me kind of map this out for you and put it in a different visual, because I think it's helpful to see all these different touch points. So again, Sarah started on LinkedIn. She signed this petition there. That got her a little bit of the way towards her destination. From there, she left. She moved on to something else. She jumped back on the pink line here, where she saw this video ad on Instagram that really moved her a lot. And then she just kept scrolling. She got off the train. Later, she jumped on the orange line, where this was the email appeal that came to her inbox. This took her quite a ways, because she got ultimately up to that point of choosing whether or not to give, and she just chose not to at that point. She wasn't quite ready to, for one reason or another. From there, she jumped on the green line. That display ad moved her a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit further in her journey. That direct mail piece was a fantastic cultivation piece for her that got her thinking about the organization and giving every day for 3 or 4 days. It moved her a lot, but it wasn't the ultimate channel where she ultimately gave. What got her over the line was back to the LinkedIn channel, we'll call it the red line here, that took her to the final destination here of making a gift, because her friend shared this campaign on LinkedIn. And based on all of her interactions and all the trust that was built and all the cultivation, all the goodwill that was built across these different touch points, it moved her to the point of choosing to give when presented with that call to action in a credible and trustworthy way. This is fundraising in 2025. Specifically when you're talking about all these different channels and engaging with digital channels combined with offline as well. It took 5 channels and 6 touch points to get Sarah to actually say yes to giving for the first time. This is a lot of work. If you then go think about, how do I go put together a campaign that actually looks like this? There's actually 6 different or 5 different mini funnels, if you will, that are going on inside of this campaign. Every single one of these channels has the opportunity to take her to her final destination. On LinkedIn, when she signed that petition, afterwards, she was then on a page that could have driven her towards giving with a donation form and everything, but she just bailed after she signed it. The video ad, if she clicked through, she was going to come to a landing page that has more information and an opportunity to give. The email appeal, she was right there. She just didn't choose to give. Every single one of these could take you to that ultimate destination. It's like a series of funnels, if you will, that makes up this whole transit map, this whole transit system where you're trying to move someone towards the ultimate decision of giving. But if you think about the time and the energy and the effort that it takes to put something like this together, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of resources. It's a lot of people, oftentimes. I shared this, when I gave this presentation, or a form of this presentation last week at the Build Good Summit. I shared this slide. We were talking about building out like a recurring giving acquisition campaign. So I put this kind of map together of what does it really take to get a campaign like that over the line? We'll just call it today. It's like a simple high urgency campaign. In any kind of simple campaign like this, we'll say it lasts about 2 weeks. You're usually going to send about 5 different emails. You need to centralize in a dedicated donation page. You might send out some like direct to voicemail messaging using a tool called Sly Broadcast, which is pretty slick. You might send some SMS messages using the SMS channel to create some additional engagement, drive some cultivation. You want some social posts. You want some retargeting ads for the people that are kind of in your target audience. You might have some website banners. You also then have to go create all the copy and creative for these multiplied by the number of segments, because you're not just talking to one massive group of people with your emails and your copy. As an effective fundraiser, as you know, you've got to go segment your copy. We want to move to this point where it feels more like one-to-one communication, very humanized, very personalized. So let's say you've got 3 segments across all these different channels. I put some estimates in here of like, what does it take to go create just the copy and get these types of assets set up for a campaign like this? I know that I'm underestimating, because I put this in front of 100 fundraisers last week. They're all like, yeah, it's probably more than that. But bare minimum, just to get some of the creative set up and out the door, it's at least 33 hours. It's probably a dedicated full week to go put the creative for a campaign like this together. I'd imagine in reality, it's probably a lot more than that, because you've got to deal with copy approvals and other people that want to speak into it and all that sort of stuff. You're probably looking more like 2 full weeks just to get the creative ready to go. We're not even talking about the time that's required for segmentation and building out all those various lists with deduplication and all that sort of stuff that you need to go target your messaging and your channels effectively. On top of that, we're also not talking about updating lists and keeping suppression lists and targeting lists up to date for ad channels, for emails, for other channels as well throughout the duration of a campaign. We're also not even talking about things like A/B testing. We don't want to go launch a campaign and assume that all of our messaging is the absolute right messaging to lead to the best results. We want to go test it. So we need different variations of all of our different copy for our various segments to see what's going to stick, so we can make sure we lead with the most effective messaging as we push closer to a deadline. There's all these things that go into creating an effective campaign today when donor expectations of us are higher than they have ever been. We just simply don't have time for this. If you disagree, let me know. I mean, you jump in the comments, say, I got plenty of time for this. And you'll probably have a lot of people that are reaching out to you because, oh, you got time to spare? Cool. I can sign you up for some work to help us out. We don't have time for this. We need to move to a world, where we have sort of an AI assist on all these things to help us get to the point where copywriting is done for us so that it's ready for us to review in seconds. We don't want to remove the human from the process. I'm not suggesting we should go just blindly trust something like Claude or ChatGPT to do all of our copywriting for us, but there's a lot of ways it can help get things drafted and put together for us, so it's just ready for us to review, make some tweaks, make some adjustments, get it out the door in a matter of minutes rather than a matter of hours to even weeks sometimes. The segmentation that we need to create. AI tools can help us actually create better segmentation than we could probably do on our own. There's a variety of different AI tools that are out there that can help you with this sort of stuff. I'll show you a bit of kind of what Avid can provide on this. But even if you're using something like Google Sheets and you've got Gemini that's plugged in there, helping you work through, okay, what are the formulas? How do I go apply it to these columns? That sort of stuff. There's a lot of these AI assist tools that can help you with some of this stuff to make that process move so much faster than the days to weeks it often takes to get proper segmentation done. And then list updates. It's not just segmentation once, it's like over and over again to keep all of our audiences up to date. That takes a tremendous amount of time. AI tools can help you do this and automate it and push out to proper channels at the right time. This is where we need to get to. Unfortunately, most of our tools in the nonprofit space aren't doing this for us. I think nonprofit software in a lot of ways has kind of left us behind the curve a little bit, because most tools aren't empowering us to do this. And the tools that do exist out there, they don't necessarily talk to our other systems. They don't talk to our data and understand performance and where to go next and all that sort of stuff. The reality is, this is where we're at. Modern fundraising just requires more from us. More than I think probably any of us ever dreamed when we first got into this into this sector. It requires a lot more from us, more than we have. And in this day and age, in order to be successful, modern fundraising requires more to be done for us, using an AI assist, using AI tools, using technology and software, what's available today to help us boost efficiency and ultimately boost effectiveness, because we can handle a lot more and have more time for strategy, all that sort of stuff. I see Lauren jumping in saying, you're exactly right. A lot of time that nonprofits, especially small to mid-sized shops, really don't have. I'd even say it's big shops too, because the scale that your organization needs you to operate on in order to be successful and scale and grow giving, it is more than what you have capacity for at any stage, whether you're a 1 or 2 person shop, you're a mid-sized shop, or you got a fundraising team of 30 plus people. Your dreams and aspirations are bigger than what you have time and energy and resources and budget for. That's the reality of today. I've got a resource I'll share with you in a moment that will kind of help with a couple of these things. I want to talk just for a moment, though, about what I've been calling AI paralysis. Many fundraisers, I think, have this sort of AI paralysis where we know these tools exist and we know there's opportunity, but there's a million of these tools and most of them are trash and I don't even know how to get started. That's where a lot of us are living. This is data from a year ago, so I know this number has grown, but data from McKinsey and Company doing some survey research, 65% of companies are using generative AI today in their day-to-day work. I believe, if I remember right, I don't have the data in front of me, the year-over-year jump was like a 40 to 50% increase from like 2023 to 2024. If you just keep growing that into 2025, this number has to be minimum at like 80% at this point. It just keeps growing. A kind of scary thing is this chart. First of all, it just looks atrocious and is impossible to understand. If you go plug this into ChatGPT and ask it to put this chart in plain English, here's a really interesting insight coming out of some of this research, is that 50% of companies, roughly, that are using AI to generate content are just full send publishing it without reviewing it before it actually goes out into the marketplace. And this type of thing, I think, is what creates a lot of kind of paralysis for us as fundraisers, is we see how scary some of this stuff is. We don't want to be part of that problem. We're working for really meaningful and good causes. We don't want to jump in on something that's really scary and maybe causing problems in the world. The reality is there's better ways to use these tools, but it can cause some paralysis in keeping us from actually taking steps forward and figuring out how do we best use them in an ethical and sustainable and really meaningful and effective way. Some other kind of quick hits, quick observations from some of this McKinsey research. Large companies, they're adopting lots of the AI best practices and how they integrate some of these tools into their workflows. The kind of like between the lines here is that mid-size, small companies, nonprofit organizations, we don't have the luxury of even knowing what the best practices are, let alone being able to implement them and do so at scale. We don't have the budgets, the time, the resources, the energy for that. Many companies are actually expressing that they have difficulty hiring AI-related roles and skill sets. And so now go look at the nonprofit space. If most big companies are having troubles with this, most nonprofits are barely even thinking about this, let alone know where to go next in order to bring those skill sets inside of our organizations. Most companies expect to be reskilling their staff for the next 3 years, which I think is kind of a hilarious insight, because 3 years ago, almost no one was using these types of tools in their day-to-day work. It was just kind of coming on the scene. So the idea that in 3 years from now, everyone will have all the skills that they need for using AI tools is just silly. the world's going to look radically different in 3 years. So we have this constant cycle and process where we have to be reskilling our staff. But again, it's scary. It's time, it's money, it's effort, it's energy, it's lots of resources. Companies expect changes in headcount due to AI adoption. That doesn't necessarily mean every job is being replaced, but it changes the makeup of our organization. What roles do we need? What skill sets do we need? How many people do we need on this team? Should we actually move some of these people over here because now their role looks different because we have AI tools that are helping us, making us more efficient? The future I would say not even the future, the present day of fundraising requires a level of AI empowerment in order for us to be effective. I want to give you just one resource today that can help you take at least a step forward. Jump in the chat. I'm actually curious how many of you are using ChatGPT or an equivalent tool in your day-to-day work, whether it's writing appeals or it's brainstorming or helping you think through ideas, writing social media copy, that sort of stuff. I'm just curious. So jump in the chat and let me know if you're using something like ChatGPT in your day-to-day work. You can just say, yes, I'm using it. If you want to write me a whole paragraph on how you're using it, you can do that too. But I want to share this resource with you. It's a guide on how to train ChatGPT to write better fundraising appeals. One of those things that makes it really scary, I think, for a lot of us to dive into using a tool like this is the fear that everything's going to sound the same. We're going to lose our personal voice. We're going to lose our brand voice. Everything's going to be really stale. That's true if you jump into ChatGPT and say, write me a fundraising email. You're going to get garbage back. That's the reality. Everything is going to sound the same. It's not going to be effective. But if you know how to train it properly on your brand voice, on your mission and your values and your vision, with effective frameworks for writing effective copy, all those sorts of things, if you know how to train it on these models and give it the rails to run on, it can dramatically save you huge amounts of time in order to make you more efficient and ultimately more effective. So I've put together this guide for you that walks through a series of different prompts and kind of fill in the blank guides as well to help you go write more effective copy using a tool like ChatGPT, or this would work for really any of those kind of major generative AI tools that are out there. So feel free to scan that QR code. You can go get a copy of this free resource to help you just write more effective copy and take some more steps forward towards adopting some of these tools in your organization to make you more efficient so you can keep up with the demands of modern day fundraising, which, as we said, are overwhelming. This can help. It can help you move a little bit further forward. But I would suggest to you today, and thank you for spending a good chunk of your time and your day with me today to think about these things and have this conversation. I do see lots of folks are using it in different ways. Some using, Lauren's using like all of them: ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. Carolina is using some tools to write ad copy, different things like that. So it's actively making its way into our space, which is really exciting. I would submit to you, though, that these types of, I'll call them AI widgets, are Band-Aid solutions. They're not the ultimate solution, because the challenge with using, we'll just say ChatGPT, to write your copy is that it doesn't know how things are performing. It doesn't know what's working and what's not. It's another tool in the tech stack that's completely disconnected from everything else. It's not talking to any of your other tools. It's not sitting on top of your performance to understand where should we go next? What campaign should we run next? How do we craft this in a more effective way? Because we've seen how it's played out with all these other audiences and segments over time. It's another disconnected tool. Ultimately, where we need to go is to solve some of these like root issue problems in our industry, in the nonprofit space. As it relates to data, I imagine you can agree with this, that our tools they're in chaos, quite honestly. They don't talk to each other. They don't help us get these strategic insights that look at our fundraising in a full 360-degree view. We need clarity in our data and make our tools actually talk to each other, because they never have. And there's not a lot that's out there that's helping us bring all the data together, short of a lot of manual effort. On the strategy side, we often get stuck in short-term thinking, where we're focused on how do we meet this year's fiscal year budget. Our missions require us to be able to look longer into the future to make sure that we're set up for sustainable growth and impact for the next 2, 3, 5 years. AI tools can help us start to understand how what we're doing today is going to impact results in the future, but so often our tools help us focus on the here and now, but not on what's happening down the road. On the execution side, as you know, it's what we've talked about all of our time together today, we're under-resourced. Regardless of if you're a 2 or 3 person shop or you're a team of 30, we're under-resourced. We need focus, we need efficiency in order to be more effective. So hopefully this has been a good conversation for you to just start to think about adopting some of these tools. I will propose to you that the ultimate solution here, I don't think is just adding another tool to the tech stack. I think it's actually a system that can bring everything together and make it talk. And so that's really what we're building here at Avid, is a system to run your fundraising on. So a couple examples of what that looks like, with using Avid, it allows all of your data to always be in sync, connecting those tools together, everything from your CRMs to donation forms to analytics, emails, all the data that you want talking to each other, Avid can make it happen and actually visualize your results, usually for the first time across your full program. It's fundraising intelligence that helps using some AI insights and machine learning, where should you go next? And this isn't like you get to look at your data once a month. It's like every single day you log in, it's going to tell you, what are those biggest changes happening? Where should you put more gas on the fire because there's huge opportunity? Where are the problems that are creeping in and what should you do about it? That's available to you on a daily basis using real-time data, again, AI-driven insights customized down to you. On the segmentation side, actually keeping all of your segments in sync, helping you build incredibly in-depth audience segmentation based on all of your data together, and then automating, pushing it out to your Meta advertising, your Google advertising, your MailChimp, your HubSpot, your email tools, keeping that data refreshed and in sync every day. So you no longer have the late nights of having to stay up and pull lists and clean data just to get the email targeting right for the next day. It's just done for you in the background. And then ultimately building campaigns that build themselves. We need campaigns that are built for us. So we're not spending 40 hours just writing all the creative. It's actually done for us. So all we got to do is review and tweak and hit the send button. But this is better and more than just asking ChatGPT to go write an email. It's actually built on top of learnings from 8,000 experiments and A/B tests about what works to grow giving. So it's been trained on how to write effective copy and creative for all of your campaigns. So lots to explore inside of Avid. If you want to go take a look at the platform, we'd love to spend some time seeing if it's a good fit for you. You're welcome to go schedule a demo of Avid. You can either scan this QR code that's on your screen, or you can go to avidai.com/demo. So I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen for you as well, so that you can see it. But we'd love to show you a bit of the platform and show you around and show you kind of what's under the hood and how it can help you become more efficient and more effective, turn data into action so you can spend less of your time on all the grunt work, focus your time on the most effective and important things while raising more money and scaling your fundraising. Thank you for joining me today. I'm happy to stick around for a little bit and answer any questions that you might have. So feel free, if you've got any questions you want to explore with me today, just go drop them in the comments there on LinkedIn or on YouTube. I'll see them come in here shortly. I see a few thoughts and comments coming in, so I'll give some shout outs as questions roll in as well. Again, lots of folks that are starting to implement tools like ChatGPT into your workflows. We've got a comment from Elaine on kind of how she's using some of these tools. I'll put it on the screen. I just did a book cover design for a client. Her direction was really clear because she provided me visuals that helped her show me exactly what the client wanted, saved a ton of time on the initial back and forth. Not a finished piece by any stretch, but it was very helpful. Again, using ChatGPT to help us get closer to the end product, spend a lot less time doing it. It might not be 100% the absolute perfect thing the first time you get something back, but it's going to save you 80 to 90% of the time. You can put the final polish on it and be the strategic direction for it. It just takes away a lot of the grunt work that normally takes up the majority of our time. Again, lots of folks that are using these types of tools. I'll put this comment up from Lauren as well and kind of read it out to you, sharing some of her story. She would categorize herself as an elder millennial. I'm curious if you resonate with me on the fear of putting a check in the mail. So you can let me know that. Truly the last generation that remembers a full analog world and the turn of the digital prowess that is normal to all of us. Been in the field of nonprofit fundraising for 15 years. What's happening now reminds me of that time. It's here to stay, but we get to test its full capacity. What a time to be alive. I love that mentality, Lauren. That's fantastic. I think a lot of us are tempted to, like, our natural inclinations are to live in fear of some of these tools. I love that you're seeing this as the future and embracing it and knowing, like, things are going to be okay. We're going to find a way through this. And we're going to figure out how to use this for the best to grow good in the world. So thank you for that encouragement for all of us today, Lauren. I appreciate that. Adam is wondering what AI is Avid built on. Adam, I would love to have that conversation. If you go schedule some time, we can go talk about the tool and how it's built and how it can work for you. That would be a great conversation to have. It'd be a lot of fun. So again, feel free to go book some time and we can have the conversation at avidai.com/demo. Let me put that URL back on the screen. It disappeared for a moment. So I'll put that back up as well for you. And then let's see, Levi is asking, where's a good place to start for designing a donor journey up the mountain? Well, we have some tools even inside of Avid that can help you start to figure that out. That's kind of the beauty of the platform, is it looks across your performance and what's happening inside of your audiences and your segments, and tells you, here's what to do next. Here's the campaign to run. Here's where to go. It recommends the plays, helps you build them out, writes the creative for you, again, based on proven tactics and strategies from real world A/B testing and optimization. So the tool can help you actually go kind of run those plays. Outside of that, there's lots of different training and experts and consultants out there that have ideas on how to go start to build out these journeys. My encouragement to you would be to focus first on a new donor welcome series. I've done a lot of training and teaching on how to go build those out. And what's shocking is that there's just a huge portion of nonprofits that have no meaningful onboarding communication for a new donor. So I would certainly spend some time, Levi. I'll put your question up on the screen so we can all see it. I would certainly spend some time thinking through, how do I go build out some automated communication anytime a new donor comes on the file, making sure to obviously thank them, send a separate email to welcome them into a community, cultivate them with stories and resources, educational resources to help them understand more about the cause, lead them then to a point over the course of a few weeks and a few different emails where you even might ask them to upgrade, become a recurring donor. But make sure that you have that kind of communication in place to go onboard them effectively, welcome them in, because that's a really critical ingredient and piece to making sure they retain into the following year. So hopefully those are some helpful thoughts for you. Is there documentation and other information once you get started with Avid? Yes, and there's a lot more coming. So as I oversee all things training related, some things that I'm working on kind of behind the scenes is building out our knowledge base and making sure there's plenty of training, whether it's written or it's video content, understanding all the various tools and opportunities. How do you get the most effectiveness out of the system that is Avid? So yes, we have a whole knowledge base and training videos and that sort of stuff. There's a lot more to come as well to help you get the most out of the platform. Awesome. I don't see any more questions at the moment. Feel free if you've got others to drop them in here. But I do just want to say thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me today, nearly a full hour, talking through the current state of modern fundraising. Hopefully it's helpful to start to think about this kind of transit map analogy, to think through all the various channels and touch points that we have to go put out there in order to be effective in our communication. And ultimately, I do hope this has been helpful to think through, how do we start to take some further steps forward and how we go implement and integrate some of these AI tools like Avid and others into our workflows to improve our efficiency so we can be more effective, get some time back, maybe get some good sleep at night, maybe have the luxury of taking a little vacation, things like that to help us avoid burnout so we can stay passionate about our causes and make meaningful impact for years to come. Grateful for you all. Again, thank you for joining us. And if you want to spend some time with us to think through how Avid can help you grow and scale your fundraising, again, scan that QR code or go to avidai.com/demo and you can book some time for us to have a conversation. Again, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.